What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel. It is Monday. It is Mock Draft Monday. And on this episode, we have a 12-team redraft PPR mock draft with IDP included. I was about to say IDP players, but that would be a little bit too much there. Of course, you know me, David at DMendio2 on Twitter. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Coleman, at TheBoys_22. Kev, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. You got me to do IDP. I heard IDP is all the rage now, so I got it. I had to try it out since I was heard it's the fastest growing niche community out there. So let's try this out and get a little redraft as well. And I think that'll be a little bit fun.
Yeah, I mean, Kev mentioned it. Right now, we're trying to hit every little corner of the fantasy football market. We talk a lot about a super flex, dynasty, all these different angles, but there's redraft players out there that are kind of trying to learn values right now where quarterbacks should go. And then, of course, there's IDP enthusiasts that want to make sure that their players are talked about and that we pay respect to these defensive players. So we are going to do that today, and we're going to show you the draft board and how it broke down here. So first, we got to start off. Kev, you had the first pick, and I don't think in any other mock draft you gave yourself the first pick. This was the first time. And
Yeah.
shocker, you went Jonathan Taylor. Any questions as far as you tempted to take somebody else at that spot, or was it a no-brainer?
No, it's no brainer for me. I think Jonathan Taylor's a clear 101 in redraft, especially at that running back position. I actually tend to like that 101 in redraft too. I think there's a lot of fun ways you can build your roster. It's why I wanted to take it and see how it kind of worked out. I was interested as the next pick with Jefferson, and then Swift going as running back too, which I love. I think those are very interesting picks there because a lot of unknowns about Minnesota right now, especially that quarterback position. New coach going to be coming in. They have a new GM. What are they going to do with Cousins? And then you have Swift, who I love. I think that's a great pick. I think I would have made that pick too. But I think, McCaffrey still going to the top 5 is interesting. Eckler at the 105. There's a lot of fun in this thing. I always forget because I don't play a lot of redraft, how redraft can kind of play out.
I think it was very interesting to see how this played out. I don't know if I would take DeAndre Swift with the number 3 pick personally. I think I would take guys like, again, assuming with redraft, I might take Derrick Henry. I might take Dalvin Cook. Alvin Kamara, I know, is now a little bit more questionable with the situation that's going on in New Orleans, so I can understand why he slipped a little bit. But we looking at the draft board here, Justin Jefferson number 2, and Cooper Kupp going number 6. Those are very interesting because usually you don't see two wide receivers going in the top 6, at least in recent years, but you are okay with them going where they were going.
Jefferson maybe not so much. I understand like grabbing Jefferson and going there. I see where you're going with. I think there's a lot of question marks right now, but I think if let's say this is August and this is when we're doing the draft, and then hey, they have a quarterback, Cousins is still there, I'm okay with Jefferson. You know what I mean? Swift though, I'm okay with that too. But I'm a Swift guy. Like I think Swift's going to be excellent next year, and he's going to be a top 5 guy there. And I like to see McCaffrey go in the 104 because McCaffrey he's getting hated on right now in a lot of circles, and he is a cheat code. That guy can average 25 PPR points without scoring a touchdown. And I think that he's a value no matter where you're at. Like in Dynasty, he's going late second round, which is insane to me. We've talked about it on here. We've seen the mocks. So I don't hate it. I think Kupp is there. I think that's a good pick there. I know some people are worried about Kupp. I know when he got drafted in this draft, people kind of were like, what, Kupp at the 106? But I didn't have that feeling.
Yeah, I think what kind of intrigued me more, to be honest with you, is that Jamar Chase went in the first round, but Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill went in the second. And again, if we're talking about dynasty, I understand that. But in redraft, I don't know if I'm putting Jamar Chase over those two guys. Would you?
I think it's close. I think it's closer than we like to think. But I do know, like, with Jamar, like, thinking about what Jamar did and everything this last year, we did see some games where I think it was 5 or 6 games where he was at, 10 PPR points. And he did have some blow-up games, and you saw that. So, I think it's, okay, what do you expect from that offense? Do you expect him to have that high volume and him to get the love that he got? Or is Higgins going to play a little bit more into that? I don't hate a lot of that. Like you're mentioning here, I don't hate a lot of these picks out there. I think Adams is a question mark now because Rodgers, where the hell is he going to be? Hill, I like, but again, he kind of has those blow-up games. You're like, hey, where did he go? I like Chase, though. I think Chase is an interesting spot. That's about where I would put him. I don't really have a lot of question marks there. I know you mentioned Henry, but again, that foot, I know he's going to have the offseason to go, but what happens if he gets hurt again? I think this is going to be the decline of Henry. Like, I don't think, in my opinion, I would take Henry this high in that first round. I might take Chubb over Henry. That actually might be where I'm at. A hot take, hot takey.
I mean, I understand that. I think Chubb always concerns me just with how much work Kareem Hunt gets every year. And we saw that, hey, if their offense is inefficient, then he's not really helping you on your in your fantasy roster. But Derrick Henry is going to be getting 20 to 25 touches a week. And we saw
Yeah.
increased passing game usage this year too, which again, big difference here. I think in a redraft league, I could take Derrick Henry in Dynasty. He's going to have to slip a few rounds before I would consider looking at him.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting now looking into the second round, Javonte Williams, firm second round pick. And I think if we see that Melvin Gordon leaves Denver, let's say Aaron Rodgers goes there, we could see him in the first round.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of those guys that's going to rise up to where we're seeing Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb in that range. Would you be shocked to see that?
No, I think honestly, if Aaron went there, we know Gordon's gone. I could see Javante at like the 106, and that's a legit like me. I could see him going in the first half of the first round because everybody already is talking about Javante. The only biggest worry there is Melvin, and if he's gone and you expect that usage from that game that he was when Gordon was hurt, I could see him literally going at the 106, and that would not shock me. I could see him being like the third or fourth running back off the board.
Yeah, no, I 100% could see that as well. I think being one of the first redraft leagues we've done, I was very interested to see how the board kind of played out. And I took Austin Eckler with the 5th pick in the draft. Very satisfied with that. But I think what just the board lands to you if you take a running back early, you can take, I got AJ Brown in the 2nd, Keenan
Yeah.
Allen in the 3rd, and T. Higgins in the 4th. And I felt really good about those first 4 picks. And I was like, I just think that wide receiver is so deep that if you get an earlier pick, you can get that game-changing running back, that you can draft these wide receivers as people are trying to chase those running backs and just let the board come to you. And you can really stack a nice roster. And you did kind of something similar. You took Jonathan Taylor, and then your next 2 picks, you took Metcalf and Waddle. So I think
Yeah.
that's a really good way to build your team as it stands right now in redraft.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think there's always going to be value with those wide receivers there. And I like what you did. I even like your 5th pick. You went 0 running back, basically. You took Eckler, anchor running back. And in that 5th pick with Dylan has a high upside, especially with Jones. We don't know the question marks there. So the way you built your roster, I actually like it, as hard as it is for me to say out loud. And then, even Toby, the next pick, when you get Lamb, Pitts, and Ayuk, I think that's another interesting kind of role. I like Pitts jumping up. I like Lamb and Ayuk in there in those 2 situations. And then you got Damian as his running back 2, which I think is a value, and then Penny as your running back 3. Like, I think that's the way to go. Like, if you look at let's look at Joe. Joe is a terrible Philly fan, but if you look at what he did, he has Cook, Mixon, Monty, which is fine. But then look at his wide receivers. Like, do you have a lot of faith in those wide receivers? Godwin injury. We don't know if he's going to come back. When is he going to come back? Now we don't know if Brady's going to be there. Breaking news: he might or might not retire. You just have to ask his agent. Then you have Cooper. And then you have Lockett. Both guys, they call Cooper the fantasy locust, and they call Lockett, he's up and down. Renfro, we don't know what's going to be there. Like, I feel like the way to go is in that 2nd and 3rd round is you grab those wide receivers, because the guys that took more, predominantly running backs in those rounds, I think they're going to struggle a little bit with their roster construction.
100%. I like the teams that took a running back early and then went pass catchers to get some value later at the running back position. But one of the things we also get to look at when we don't do super flex is we get to see where quarterbacks are valued. And the doc at Trick Play Fantasy was the first person to take a quarterback, I believe.
Yes.
In the 6th round, he took Patrick Mahomes, which was then followed immediately by Josh Allen and then Justin Herbert in that same round. Now, again, you're not a redraft guy yet. You're a big dynasty player, but in these redraft 1 quarterback leagues, is the 6th round right about where you think it should be for a quarterback?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it just depends on the way your scoring is. Obviously, if you have it there, 6-point passing touchdowns, it might bump up a little bit. But I think this was a true testament of like, these are good fantasy players because there wasn't a quarterback taken in the 6th. Your home league, some dude's taking Mahomes in the 2nd. We know that. You know it's going to happen. But I think this is a testament that this is really a board that I was looking at that'd be like, hey, this is a good barometer for how you should draft. Don't reach on those quarterbacks. I thought Mahomes in the 6th was a good value from Eric. Allen too, right there, back to back. Like that's not bad, especially with how they built their teams. But I think the 6 was kind of where it goes. I personally, I waited to the 8th round, and I know you did too. You got the guy I wanted. You got Burrow in the 8th. Like looking at that 8th round, that's a lot of value there too. Like Murray, Burrow, Hurts, even Prescott in the 9th. Like that's where I feel like if you could get somebody like Prescott in the 9th, that's incredible in terms of just the value that you can build before you get there. And I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, I think more so than ever, people are really starting to realize that the difference between quarterback point scoring isn't as drastic as other
Yeah.
positions. So if you look, Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, I mean, even Jalen Hurts, I believe, was a top 5 quarterback this year, or right around that range. Dak Prescott, you have a good, what, 9, 10 guys
Yeah.
that you can draft, and you could be like, I'm okay with them as my starter. Like they're going to play every single week, and I'm okay with that. And if you're in a 12-team league, then that's pretty much like if you decide to wait, then if you see that 4 or 5 quarterbacks go off the board, you'd be like, all right, I'm going to go target my quarterback now so I can still get somebody in that top 10. And you don't have to push to go get that. And you don't have to worry about it just being a complete run of them and you not getting your guy. So, again, I'm happy to take Joe Burrow at that point. What was it, the 6th quarterback off the board? So, like, at that point, yeah, like, he's the guy I'm happy with. He falls in my lap. And I had the choice between him, Hurts, and Prescott, and I chose Burrow. But then, you have guys like Rodgers, who, of course,
Yeah.
still balls out. Russell Wilson could bounce back if, or Matt Stafford was still, I believe, a top 10 quarterback this year as well. So, yeah, it's very deep. And in any redraft 1 quarterback league, don't be the first guy to take a quarterback, is what I always believe. Let somebody else be the first one to take one, and then go and start looking at when you should take your guy.
I don't mind taking quarterbacks in the 14th, 15th round, and I don't mind even not taking a quarterback. If one thing that I will do sometimes in redraft, if the points is whatever, 4-point passing touchdowns or whatever, I've done it before where I filled my roster, especially like if it had a couple weeks until the season started with no quarterback, and then I just fill my roster with other positions and I stashed them and I say, hey, injuries happen, camp injuries happen, and then I just stream. And that's just kind of something that I've done before. And it works. And if you look at kind of where you're looking at, like the 13th, 14th, 15th round, I mean, even the 12th round, Lance and Fields in the 12th, that's great value, especially for projecting next year. Fields has got his head coach, Lance. Lance, I think, could be very good, especially once the Jimmy G experiment's over, hopefully this weekend. And then you have, Jones and Wilson, those guys, and even Kirk Cousins. Everybody makes fun of him, but he's a great fantasy asset. And he paired him up with Jefferson. I think those guys, especially with the way you're looking in the format, I would love to get those guys where they got them.
Yeah, agreed. Those are great late round guys you can grab as your QB2. And, if they decide to go off, then you didn't have to spend much capital on them. Justin Fields and Trey Lance were kind of those guys this past year where people were taking them late as potential dart throws that they waited at the quarterback position. The other thing we have to talk about in this draft, Kev, is, again, it's an IDP players included draft. So you have to have a defensive player in your starting lineup. Now, not everybody plays IDP. I get it. And it's a very different format. So it's our board. The way it played out was our first IDP player wasn't taken until the 8th round, which was Darius Leonard. And then we saw TJ Watt go, or was it, I'm sorry, I think it was TJ Watt and then Darius Leonard
Yeah.
in the 8th round, which again is something that I is the 8th round where you would take an IDP player? I think that depends on how passionate you are at IDP. I think some people may believe you should bump them up sooner. Someone like TJ Watt could be more valuable than a guy like Jerry Jeudy. I think that's more where somebody that might be big into IDP might say, hey, like, there's disrespect, take him in the 8th round. But at the end of the day, you have to also know your league mates. I don't think anybody in this draft was a big IDP player. So everybody was comfortable kind of getting their core guys they wanted first. And then they were like, okay, I don't love the offensive players here. Let me look to get a difference maker at that position. And I think, again, that just comes down to knowing your personnel, who you draft with, to be like, I can wait for these guys. What do you think?
I agree. I think so too. It just depends on who you're with. And again, we're trying to, some of us, I've never played an IDP league. I've tried to do one redraft one, but it was best ball, and I won't do it again. And I got Parsons in the 10th, and I thought that was a good value in terms of where I'm looking at. And it's only play one IDP, right? That was what this league was.
Yeah, it was one IDP player.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, that's fine with me. I think Watt was a good value in the 8th. Like I love Delgado, Derek's team. I thought he did a good job of how he balanced it out. and he was able to get Prescott, and he went through it. So I think that you did a good job. But I don't think he has to pick up a lot of guys on the waiver wire, especially for the defensive side, and he can kind of pick and play. So I think eighth, ninth, 10th round is where I'd be looking if it's just one person. And then I would just definitely look at the value and understand what the scoring rules are, because there's some guys late that you can grab.
Yeah, and we kinda saw that some people went heavier on the defensive players at certain points, but again, you can kinda look how this draft finished out here, like, for instance, Z2, our guy Toby took 5 wide receivers to finish out this draft, and you know what? For maybe his strategy, he's like, "You know what? At this point in the draft, I'm just gonna take a bunch of guys that could have bigger roles next season, and if 1 or 2 of those guys hit, then I'm okay with that," and he
Yeah.
basically stacked that position. Someone like myself, I took guys like Josh Palmer and Rondell Moore, who I expect to have bigger roles in their offense next year with the potential of a lot of guys on their team leaving. Other players like Zach Noble took took both his quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Justin Fields late. Tom Brady just kind of announced he's retiring. So at this point, he relying on Justin Fields now being a later pick is where he's going to go. So it's kind of interesting to see how these last, 4 or 5 rounds go. You can kind of see where players are taking their chances on these guys late.
Yeah, and you can see it, and I think that's kind of where we go. And you're looking through how guys kind of got drafted in the league. I thought it was interesting though. I had a lot of fun with this one, just because IDPs will be a little different. First redraft is always fun too, to see where values are. Like
Hmm.
that's a good area to see. Hey, okay, where are people valuing? Especially going into it. I think the tight ends was a lot of fun if you're looking at how the tight ends were like Mark Andrews going first. And you're looking
Hmm.
at kind of how they valued him there, and so actually Kelsey went first. What am I smoking? But then after that, it was Andrews went second, then Pitts, then Kittle. That's an interesting thing. Does Kelsey deserve second round draft capital still, even next year? Like, you're the Chiefs guy, and where that's going from. So where are these guys going to get mocked, and how are they going to go? And we'll do more redraft as the season gets closer. But I also think that there's some value in redraft mocks, just to see where
Hmm.
player value is right now. And I think it is a good adjustment, especially when you're drafting it for real and in best ball or whatever, where these guys are going from.
Looking at it right now, is Zeke Elliott going in the 4th round in a redraft mock shocking to you?
Uh, he's in that weird phase. I don't think I would take him where he was at. Right? I think I'd rather have Josh Jacobs. I know
Hmm.
this is sad as a Dallas fan, but I'd rather have Josh Jacobs. Even Etienne, who I think is going to have a good bounce back year next year. Damian Harris, I think, is maybe a better value. Even CEH, and I can't believe I just said out of my mouth, but I
No,
mean,
I can't take it back.
he's going to get the volume, and I hope he does. And if I think Zeke's okay, but fourth, I don't know about that. But he is his running back 3, so it's if he's your running back 3, I don't really hate it. But I think that's where you would kind of go with, if I'm going to draft Henry and Williams, then give me a wide receiver. I would have taken T Higgins there. So I would add Henry, Williams, Hopkins, and then T Higgins.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at that point I would have gone another receiver as well, and I think it's just very interesting that in a redraft, but obviously dynasty, you're not shocked to see him go this or
No.
later, but in a redraft, it is kind of interesting to see him. Oh, he's not just a first round or second round pick; he's fallen this far, and it you could argue, like you said, he could have gone even later. So that's kind of where we're at with Zeke. He's going to be a very interesting player to watch as the offseason goes. If we get reports, hey, he's looking great in camp, and he plays in a preseason game and plays well, and he looks fresh and spry coming off of his injury, then I wonder how much higher he starts going up draft boards. It's gonna be very interesting to see
Yeah.
for sure. One last thing, maybe as we look over here, Kev, did you have a favorite team as far as obviously take yourself out of the equation here? But actually, you said you hated your team anyway. Is
Didn't
there
really
a
like my team. Yeah, that's for sure.
which team do you
Uh,
like the best?
it comes down to two for me, but I'm gonna go with Derek's team. I really like Derek's team. I like to, and of course, because Swift got drafted for in second running back. But I like what we did with Swift, Gibson, Andrews. And then you got Ridley and Evans, who I think are good values, especially if Ridley goes somewhere where he's a wide receiver 1. Then Judy Watt, I love Dak. I like kind of how he did that there. So those first 8, 9 picks, I think he hit out of the park, and I like how he kind of built his team.
Yeah, no, it's Swift and Gibson are 2 high upside picks. Andrew's arguably the best tight end pick, and he got him in the 3rd when Kelsey went in the 2nd. Ridley and Evans, good wide receivers. No, I think it's a very solid draft from him. I'm very interested. I like Zach Noble's start of Cup, Samuel, and Kittle, and I think that was kind of an interesting start. And the only thing I didn't love his running backs. I didn't love, Patterson and Robinson going where they went. James Conner, again, I think best case scenario was this season. So, his running backs aren't necessarily great. And obviously his quarterback situation will
Yeah.
be heavy relied on Justin Fields. But I more wanted to point out those first 3 rounds of how he started, because I think that's a great way to start a redraft league with, obviously being PPR, no super flex. I think that's a really good first 3-round picks that he made. So
I think so too. I think you got to have a lot of faith in Trey Lance. Then, so if you're going to draft Debo and Kittle, and you're going to have
mhm.
those guys there, you have to think that Lance is not just going to have rushing upside that he can actually throw. And I think there's some concerns for some about that. I think he'll be fine, but then you got Ayuk there. So can Lance keep those guys' fantasy ceilings up there? I think that's the question mark with the Niners players next year.
For sure. It's going to be something to watch, as there'll be a lot of quarterback movement this offseason. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance take the reins. Where does Garoppolo go? It's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to have to watch this offseason, as we'll see who's going to get better at quarterback, who's going to get worse at quarterback, so which pass catchers will benefit from all that. But
Yeah.
we're going to close the draft board there. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in for another Mock Draft Monday. Remember, if you want to be in one of our mock drafts, first way you're going to see that is in our Discord. So if you would like to join the Triple Play Fantasy Discord, make sure you send a message to either Kev, myself, or the account at Triple Play Fantasy. We'll get you in the Discord. That's where we post our mock drafts first, and then you can hop in there. But you can also email us at tripleplayfantasy at gmail.com if you would also like to join. And yeah, we have a bunch of fun doing these mock drafts. Every week we're going to bring something different at you, a bunch of different new wrinkles there. Kev, what should the people know? What are your wise words as we depart on this Monday?
For me, just as we get into kind of draft season and trying new leagues, try every different type of league: Devi, IDP, redraft, super flex. You never done it, dynasty if you've never done it, C2C. Like, have some fun with it and branch out a little bit, especially if you want to try to change different league and league settings that you're trying to do, maybe 6-point passing touchdowns, maybe the Scott Fish rules, which are always fun to kind of do too. Like, just have some fun with it, and go out there and branch out a little bit on the leagues that you like to join, because there's so many different types of fun leagues that you can join, and just try not to stick in the one quarterback redraft, standard. Like, try to do something else. And if you're still playing standard, please stop.
Just lost all our standard
Yeah,
subscribers
it's
at
all
this
right.
point.
Come on, we can do better than just standard. I don't mind standard, but come on, just branch out. At least play in a different type of league.
I think standard's older than you are.
It is, and I have tons of gray, as you can tell. So figure your life out, standard players.
There we go. Well, again, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you're enjoying the videos, please make sure you like and leave a comment below. Talk about how great Kevin's beard is. You can talk about how fresh my hoodie is, our Triple Play hoodie that you can get over on our website at our team store. Anything you want to comment, it's always greatly appreciated. Of course, we'll be back next Monday with another mock draft with a new format. So until then, catch you guys next week.